Do you love breakdowns? Do you need stats? Do you crave insight? Download the AllStar app. UFC, Bellator, PFL 1 Championship, and more. Ad-free, fully customizable. Download the best app in the business. Link in descriptions. Let's move on. Jon Jones is gonna come back after 3 years of getting fat to fight Ciryl Gane at heavyweight. You know what I mean? I think this is a fun matchup. You know what I mean? Like if you looked at the options, right? You had Francis versus Jon Jones, you had Stipe versus Jon Jones, and then you have Ciryl Gane versus Jon Jones. Where would you rank this matchup as in like difficulty level for Jon Jones, do you think? Do you think this would be the most difficult or the least difficult? How would you rank that?
I think Francis is the. Oh no, actually, I think Cyril's the least difficult, but still incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think you know what I mean. Like stylistically, I can kind of see um, where he's going with it. Like obviously, Stipe is like still a very sound wrestler, punches very hard, and a legitimate heavyweight. Like Francis being one of the most hardest um, hitting heavyweights in the division, can wrestle, incredibly athletic. Like that's not the priority, but Ciryl Gane is still an um, incredibly light-footed heavyweight. Like he's incredibly agile, young heavyweight. Still doesn't have that many fights, um, but he's incredibly he's a legitimate heavyweight. Like if you have ever stood next to him, like
Big
that's like
boy.
a large unit.
Mhm.
And if we go back and look at like Jon Jones's fights, um, like he was starting to slow down in his last like 4 or 5 fights. You can say he was like the division was getting stale as much as he wants to. But if you go back and watch those fights, like he was a lot more flat footed and he was bullying a lot of those guys with just his physical size, something that's not going to be an option against Ciryl Gane, and then for you to say like, oh well, Francis Ngannou out wrestled Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones is a pretty good wrestler. Like he's the one that's going to be able to out wrestle him. It's like, well, who is the last guy that Jon Jones out wrestled? You know what I mean? Like
I
Ciryl
think
Gane is not.
DC, maybe.
He got him down a few times. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But that was like getting him down. I'm saying like out wrestled him the way that Francis Ngannou out wrestled him.
Uh
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
yeah, he got a few takedowns on DC, but did he like hold him down and dominate him and lay on top of him and win the rounds the way that Francis Ngannou did to Ciryl Gane? Like not really. Like so if we go back and we watch film about who he has legitimately like out wrestled, you know what I mean? Like we're gonna have to go back.
Way back.
Like like Ciryl Gane is not Lyoto Machida. Like Ciryl Gane is not
Yeah.
Chael Sonnen. Ciryl
Yeah.
Gane is not
Brandon Vera.
Rampage Jackson. Ciryl Gane is not Brandon Vera. Like we're not. That's not the same guy. You stand
No.
Ciryl Gane next to uh, uh, Lyoto Machida. Like that's a that's not the same. That's not the same human. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm excited to see it for sure. It's a pretty big question mark from my behalf on Jon Jones because Ciryl Gane he's a heavyweight. He's an athlete, and he's very fleet footed. You know what I mean? And Jon Jones was slowing down 3 years ago. If for the 3 years prior to Jon Jones not fighting, he was slowing down. So you're going three like that to me as a incredibly well versed fight fan. That looked like a fighter whose time had passed. And now he had 3 years off to, you know what I mean? Like to what? To put weight on or to I don't know. I don't know. There's a pretty big question mark.
Yeah, that is a huge question mark. And one thing that I think people are forgetting is Ciryl Gane is very young in his career as well, and he's already really fucking good. You know what I mean? He's a former champion, and he's fucking getting better. Like his skill set hasn't even like fully developed into like a prime version of Ciryl Gane, and I think like we're gonna see uh, all these people talking about it's gonna be maybe an easy fight for Jon Jones, like when he gets in there and like tussles with him. I don't think so. I think Ciryl Gane's gonna show some. I'm not saying that Ciryl Gane's gonna win, but I think he's gonna show a lot more in this fight. I think Jon Jones will bring out a lot more, and his coaches will probably bring in big wrestlers or guys that have similar style to Jon Jones or similar body frame, and Ciryl Gane is
Like,
just as big as
also,
Jon
what
Jones.
is he even? What is his like training situation at the moment? Like, as far as I know, he got
Jon Jones.
yeah, like
Yeah, he's over
he
there with Fight Ready with Henry Cejudo.
yeah, so he got like the boot from Jackson Wink, right? Like,
Yeah, he's gone
and that was like you can go back to
years
like
ago.
what, and you can go back to like what Anthony Smith has said about his like Jon Jones' career. He's like, I've been in there with the guy individually, like he's not that good. He just listens to his corner, and he is coached incredibly well. That's what makes him so special. Well, now he's not being coached incredibly well. Now he's jumped a new camp with a guy that still fights.
Yeah,
Like it's not yeah, like he's not what gave him his superpower is like no longer there. It's
maybe he was doing those 4-week camps like back in the day. That's why he looked like he was slowed down before he took the break off.
could have been,
It
could have
could have
been,
been,
could
right?
have
But
been.
that's a great point you make about what Anthony Smith said. About like how he's coached really well because when you look at Jackson Wink, yeah, you got Greg Jackson, you got John Winklejohn, John Winklejohn, Mike Winklejohn,
Yeah.
and those are probably two of the greatest coaches of all time, right up there in the
Mm-hmm.
history of the sport. Yeah, and you got guys, yeah, you got them yelling at you from cage side, instructing you how to you know stay on path with the game plan and what to look for and stuff like that. And if you know how to execute like Jon Jones does, then you do have these phenomenal performances. Um, yeah, it's an interesting fight. It's the biggest question mark. One of the biggest question marks of this year is when he comes back. What does he look like? And if he loses, what happens after that? You know what I mean? Like if he wins, of course, it leads to the Stipe fight. But if he loses, like what do they do? You know what I mean with him? Like he can't go back to light heavyweight. He already put on like 60 pounds or whatever the fuck he did. Um, we'll see, man. We'll see what Jon Jones